What is happening, everybody? James Hancock here, back to review episode 5 of season 3 of Ash vs. Evil Dead, an episode called Baby Proof. And if you haven't watched the episode yet, definitely do so, because I'm going to be diving into some pretty heavy spoilers, because this is an episode that answered the question I'm sure has been bothering everybody for millennia as to how do you trap a demon baby inside of a human corpse so that they can escape? The short answer is that you need 2 bowling balls, but of course only Ash Williams could have devised this solution. But I'll be getting to that as I get into the official recap. But before I get into my official review, I have a bit of sad news, because while the show has not been officially canceled yet, for weeks we've been seeing quotes from Bruce Campbell where he would say that if the show were to get canceled, that they would possibly think about keeping the story going as a movie franchise, because I think all of us would love to see an Evil Dead 4, Army of Darkness 2, whatever you want to call it. But this past Thursday, Bruce Campbell was at the Irish Film Institute, and this is according to BloodyDisgusting.com. Bruce Campbell told the crowd, "If they cancel it, I think Ash is done. I have lavender on my property, I'm going to smoke weed and hang out." If anybody has earned the opportunity just to chill and smoke weed and hang out, I think it's definitely Bruce Campbell. While he's not necessarily Leonardo DiCaprio or Brad Pitt, if you look at his IMDb page, this guy has not been idle. He's had a very productive, prolific, basically 40-year career so far. He's been involved in a ton of TV shows and movies, and he's traveled around the world and he goes to conventions. And if he wants to take a little time off and chill, I think he's earned it. However, my hope is that if they were to cancel Ash vs. Evil Dead at the end of this season, maybe after a couple of years we could see Ash Williams coming back, because the beauty of the character is no matter how old he gets, Bruce Campbell can still play it. But even more so, now that you have Kelly and Pablo in the mix, they're so young, you can keep this franchise going for a very long time. In any case, we have episode 5 of this season, as well as 5 more episodes to go, so let's not start cutting our wrists prematurely about the end of the adventures of the great Ash Williams. This episode was pretty simple from a story construction standpoint. It's basically just 2 simultaneous stories. On one hand, we have Ash and a Scandinavian tourist desperately trying not to get killed by Ash's little demon baby, because Ash decides that he wants to capture his son as a way of basically proving something to his daughter Brenda. I wasn't quite sure I followed his logic. In any case, he wants to capture the baby, not kill it, and present it to his daughter. I can't really remember why. He was at least under the impression that somehow that would encourage her to think of him in a better light. We also see the resolution of the siege of Ash's trailer by Pablo. Pablo, in full Deadite mode, is trying to kill Brandy and Kelly, and they're fighting for their lives. And we finally see Pablo being reborn as El Brujo Especial. Not necessarily the world's biggest home run episode, but not a bad episode by any stretch of the imagination. I definitely enjoyed it. So let's start with Pablo and Kelly first, because at the end of this episode, we finally got a little satisfaction in the budding friendship / romance that has been building between the two of them since basically the first episode of season 1. But Kelly and Pablo got to share a big smooch. While he's still rampaging around in full Deadite mode, Brandy decides to shove a Kandarian dagger into him, which doesn't kill him, which basically sends him into the spirit world, where he has the chance to speak at length with El Brujo, and he basically participates in a ritual that will allow him to become the next Brujo. But quick question, the girl who's in these visions, who's walking around, I mean, from behind, she's basically naked, but from the front, it almost looks as if she's fully frontal nude there as well, because I thought she was basically wearing like a fur bikini. Is that a fur bikini, or is that just full frontal nudity on Starz television? I couldn't really tell, but maybe some more observant people than myself can confirm or deny what I suspect to be the case. But it's a pretty cool sequence as we see Pablo basically having this like black stain that's spreading all over his skin from where he was stabbed with the Kandarian dagger, and he's basically fighting to get rid of the influence of the Deadites. But when he emerges from his little coma or his vision, he seems strong, he seems focused. He and Kelly have this great little kiss, and he doesn't really even pause to appreciate the fact that they finally had a big smooch before he's charging out the door for their next mission. I've been dying to see these 2 characters get together since the beginning of the show, so that was very satisfying. And we see that Kelly also is marching off to confront Ruby, who she decides basically, because Ruby came after her friend Pablo, that Ruby's got to go down. Ruby might have black magic and all sorts of evil, horrible shit on her side, but my money is on Kelly. But the main thrust of this episode is Ash taking on the little demon baby spawn / son of his, who's even got a little like baby chainsaw hand. If you watch the behind the scenes featurette after the episode, they talk about how so many of the kids were completely freaked out about the idea of having a chainsaw hand, so they basically had to have a little like mitten for the kid's hand, and they, with a little CGI, turned it into the little baby chainsaw. So while Ash and the Norwegian girl keep running from him, and the kid's like knocking down doors and sawing through doors, and he's just on a total murderous rampage. The main gimmick or gag of this episode is when the kid somehow ends up inside the body of the Norwegian tourist. And once he's inside the body, he's able to basically to animate it, because periodically its head will pop up, and Ash has a fun little boxing match. It reminded me a lot of the boxing match with Henrietta in Evil Dead 2 after she's transformed into full like Deadite mode with the long tentacle head and the head up like, you know, kind of suspended up above the body. And even Bruce Campbell, who's seen a lot of strange and fucked up shit in his time as an actor, seems genuinely shocked by just how far the show's willing to go in terms of showing this kid crawling up inside the girl's crotch and then out of her head and so on and so forth. But of course, it ends with this very practical solution for trapping the kid, where he embeds a bowling ball on the top and on the bottom, rolls it up in a rug, and throws it in the Delta. I love how no matter what evil demonic forces Ash is confronting, he always resorts to chainsaws and guns or bowling balls or the Delta. You know, very, very mundane, very quintessentially American tools to fight back. But when Ash arrives to show Brandy what he's got in his trunk, Ruby's already there, and she's kind of already trying to poison Brandy against her father again. And when he opens up the trunk, the demon baby's here, but of course he's already eaten the body, so once again, I'm not quite sure what he was trying to prove by having the body, but Brandy finally calls her father Dad, and she hops in the car, and he hops in the passenger seat, and the Delta drives off, leaving the little demon baby with Ruby. It's a nice little moment seeing Ash and his daughter finally on warm, loving terms, and my suspicion is that they'll team up with El Brujo Especial and Kelly, and we'll see basically a little war with Ruby between our new quartet of heroes versus whatever Ruby has in store for them. I'm assuming the little demon baby will keep growing, and it'll probably end up resembling the evil Ash that we saw in Army of Darkness. In any case, I thought the episode was very enjoyable. It's not an episode that's going to necessarily bring in hordes of fans or change the fate of the show, but I feel like as long as this show is ongoing, as long as it has not been canceled, as a fan, I feel like it's almost like my solemn duty to keep doing recaps and reviews of each individual episode, because of what I don't want to have happen if the show does get canceled and we get no more movies. I at least want to know that in my heart, I did everything in my power to try and make a case for why this show is so cool while I had an opportunity to do so. So if you watched and enjoyed this video, please consider giving my channel a subscribe. I greatly appreciate it. But definitely tell your friends to check out Ash vs. Evil Dead as well as the Evil Dead movies, because the more people that are watching this shit, the better chances we have of seeing more adventures of the great Ash Williams. If you want to talk more, give me a shout on Twitter @Colbrax, or leave a comment in the comments below. And I hope everyone has an awesome week. So long.